Sometimes in the wild and ever-changing world of film, there's no knowing quite what you're signing up for. Some actors may think they're in for a minor role and end up becoming a sensation whose part is expanded, and sometimes a well-known act can take on a major part only to be rudely informed at the last second that actually their character is on the chopping block. At least that was the case for the cast members listed here, all of whom were surprised by an unexpected death in one form or another whilst making a movie. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is Whatculture.com, and these are 10 movie deaths not even the actors saw coming. Number 10. Dean Keaton, The Usual Suspects. This one is pretty infamous amongst film buffs, but poor Gabriel Byrne wasn't just surprised by the death of one of his most famous characters, because you see, the Irish actor wasn't even aware until after opening night which character he was actually bloody playing. In 1995's twisty mystery The Usual Suspects, he plays one of the more central criminal associates involved in mastermind Kaiser Soze's convoluted plan, and like the rest of his crew, he bites the bullet early into proceedings before the rest of the film is told through flashbacks. However, the Irish actor believed his character would be revealed to be Kaiser Soze, meaning that he actually survived, resulting in a rather nasty surprise for him when the film actually debuted. Number 9. Maya Hansen, Iron Man 3. The Gift star Rebecca Hall must have been thrilled when she landed a pivotal role in the third flick from the blockbuster superhero franchise Iron Man. After all, she'd be playing Maya Hansen, the female villain of 2013's Iron Man 3, and with the Lethal Weapons scribe and Robert Downey Jr. comeback Kiss Kiss Bang Bang director Shane Black in the director's chair of this third installment, surely this meant a pretty stellar role for her in the MCU. Well, yeah, that could have happened, or she could get unceremoniously shot dead out of nowhere by her co-villain halfway through the film. Yeah. The death was brutal to viewers, but spare a thought for poor Hall, who thought that she was signing on for a major role only for it to be cut into a short glorified cameo when Disney decided her character couldn't sell enough tie-in toys. Yeah, that's right. Number 8. Eddie, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. There is no end to the stories of zany on-set hijinks that came from the creation of the seminal sci-fi satire musical comedy horror genre mishmash cult oddity that is The Rocky Horror Picture Show. From a purportedly pissed-off Susan Sarandon genuinely kneeing Tim Curry's groin to her on-screen fiancé accidentally thumping her hand, the shoot was full of bizarre incidents worthy of the film which spawned them, but none were as noteworthy as the unveiling of Eddie's body from beneath a tablecloth. Only Curry as Frankenfurter was given any prior warning that the body would be there, meaning the shock, laughter, and even the director's demand that said laughing actors shut up are all genuine, unplanned, and featured in the finished film. Number 7. Most of the cast, Avengers Infinity War. There are too many individual actors to even list in this case, as countless stars throughout the ever-expanding MCU opened up their coveted copies of the Infinity War script to see whether they survived the universe-shattering snap, only to discover that the answers didn't actually lie in those pages. Yes, in order to maintain maximum tension and elicit some genuine heartfelt emotion when it came time for the big scene, the filmmakers chose not to inform the superhero stars who would live and who would die until the day of shooting the pivotal scene. The result was a moment of bleak blockbuster brilliance which shocked the actors involved almost as much as the fans in the cinema. Number 6. Captain Amazing, Mysterymen. It's not like the entire cast were left in the dark about this unexpected death in 1999's dark comedy superhero satire Mysterymen, as the cult comedy wasn't shrouded in, well, mystery during filming, but one element of a particular key death was kept hidden from one actor specifically for impact. Poor Janine Garofalo was nonetheless the victim of a pretty vicious shock when her character was intended to check in on the condition of her co-star. When it seems Captain Amazing has been offed, Garofalo's the bowler trepidatiously reaches out for his hand, only for the appendage to fall clean off and garner a screech of horror from her, which is entirely genuine, as she had no idea the prop was designed to do that. A pretty cruel trick, but a brilliant bit of cinema. Number 5. Matthew Bennell, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What's a remake of the often adapted Invasion of the Body Snatchers without at least a little added bleakness? After all, the brutal tale of the perils of conformity needed a jolt of surprise in its tale, lest it become as anodyne as the out-of-nowhere happy ending that was tagged on to the original 1956 film. That said, there's probably no need to leave the actors involved as distraught as the cinema-goers themselves. I mean, just look at the terrifying closing scene of the infamously dark 1978 remake, wherein Donald Sutherland's hero is revealed to be assimilated by the Pod People. The revelation prompts a horrified shock from co-star Veronica Cartwright, which is made all the more effective effective by the fact that the writer and director didn't warn her of this vicious twist before shooting began. So that reaction? Yeah, that's real. Number 4. Lieutenant Colonel Austin Travis. Executive decision. It's hard to argue that you didn't expect your character to die when you've been given access to the script of the film that you're making, but that is nonetheless the claim that self-serious action star / unintentionally funny martial artist Steven Seagal makes. Executive Decision, a tense thriller from US Marshals director Stuart Baird, opens with a scene wherein Seagal's character was killed off in duty, resulting in Kurt Russell becoming the de facto protagonist for the remainder of the film. However, rumors abound that despite the part always being intended as a small role, Seagal was unhappy about this early death and had to be fobbed off with a version of the "but if a tough guy like you dies, no one is safe" pitch, which was later used on Samuel L. Jackson for, spoiler, Deep Blue Sea. Number 3. Kane. Alien. Filmgoers may have expected that 1984 star John Hurt was bound to be the protagonist of Blade Runner director Ridley Scott's 1979 haunted house in space horror sci-fi hybrid Alien, but the cast knew better. Return of the Living Dead scribe Dan O'Bannon's original script may have been entitled Star Beast and featured a talking xenomorph, but it was always going to feature the early death of a decoy protagonist to jar viewers. That said, no one involved foresaw how the death would go, with Scott filming a bloodless early take to get the actors comfortable with the material and happy to lean in and get close up with the action, and then drenching them with blood, viscera, and gore the second time around, prompting real revulsion and terror from the actors in the take which made it into the final film. Number 2. Angel. The Wild Bunch. It's hard to say that the actors of troubled Western icon Sam Peckinpah's revisionist drama The Wild Bunch didn't see, well, any death coming. The unsparing and brutally bleak flick still packs a punch and will always be able to destroy viewers' mindset of any idealized views of combat with its vicious gore and unremittingly downbeat tone. An allegory for the then ongoing Vietnam War, The Wild Bunch features the death of pretty much everyone involved, from the eponymous characters to local villagers to women and children to the viewer's romantic image of the Wild West itself. Which makes it all the more surprising to discover that the actors themselves were shocked when the iconic throat-slitting sequence which begets all of this bloodshed was far, far gorier than they expected, prompting shock and horror from the seasoned pros which made it all into the completed film. And number 1, Tony Stark. Avengers Endgame. Some of the actors listed here knew that their death was coming and were surprised by its bloodiness. Some were aware their characters might die off and were shocked at how early they bit the bullet. And then there's poor old Sebastian Stan, who showed up to the set of Avengers Endgame to film a wedding scene. What wedding did I miss in Endgame, you might be wondering to yourself? Well, there wasn't any, as Bucky Barnes' actor soon learned when it turned out that his character was actually attending the funeral of Tony Stark. He masked the shock well, but this is still easily the most brutally misinformed actor in this rundown nonetheless.